So what is a credit bureau freeze? Well, there are three credit bureaus that control the credit world. They're Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. I don't know how they got those positions, but they did. And they all are involved in any credit that you apply for. So if you apply for a credit card at Macy's, you know, those ones that they ask you when you're checking out, then one of these will do the authentication and give you the authorization when you fill out the form. When you go and apply to refinance a house, to buy a house, to buy a car, any credit, any extension of credit, not use of a credit line already, but when you apply for the credit, these companies are involved. And so if you're under attack for identity theft, the number one strategy, the number one thing you can do is go and create an account for all three of these on their separate websites and go and endure the endurance test of them asking you if you want to pay them to do this for you over and over and over again until you finally get to the point where they allow you to do a freeze for free. They do. They all get there. But along the way, they make it seem like you have to pay them. You have to set up an account with them. You have to do their credit lock offering in order to do what you're trying to do. But they all do ultimately allow you to freeze your credit for free. But you need to set up an account for each of the three of them and endure their pressure. This is the primary thing that LifeLock and other paid services do for you. But you can do it for yourself for free. The hard part is that you need to go to each credit bureau, to their own sites, create an account, and freeze it for every member of the family who might have credit. And that usually includes kids. With kids, you have to send a letter along, a physical letter along as part of the process when they're underage. Okay, so it's a big deal, but it's incredibly bulletproof because once your credit is frozen with these three bureaus, you can't take out any new lines of credit. So if somebody convinces a car dealer that they're you, it doesn't matter because when they go for the credit application, they'll say your credit is locked. You can't get credit. And that person can't unlock it because they don't have these accounts. So they're done. They're dead in the water. It is probably very important, I think, that people create an account on these three bureaus themselves before a hacker using your information does. Because that's a risk. There's a risk that a hacker with your social security number, your name, your address, and all this other information could go in and say, I'm going to set up the security for these guys so they can't do a freeze. So they can't see their credit. And just another implementation. So they definitely want anyone you know and care about to have done this themselves. It's a pain. It's very important. So let's look at Equifax. So you go to Equifax.com. There's a login button. We've got a screenshot here circled. And then you in the next screen, you'll have to choose my plan. And on the following screen, you choose the free plan. Don't worry if it doesn't mention a credit freeze. It will get you there. And then when you finally get there, it will look like this. And you'll be able to manage a freeze. And you click on it. You read up on how it works. It says a security freeze is one step that takes to help prevent the access to Equifax credit reports to open credit accounts. They're federally regulated and should be temporarily lifted or permanently removed each time you apply for credit. So you can manage your freeze. If you want to buy a car, you can go into these accounts, unfreeze for a weekend, apply for the credit, wait till you hear back, and then freeze them again. So now you've got a very short window where someone could try to perpetrate identity theft, but they won't know that that's their window. Okay, so it's something you can undo as well. As a bonus, you also get an annual credit report for free, and during that credit report, they will try very hard to sell you their not free service. And then there's Experian. It's a very similar process. You go to their website, they have a sign-in button. You got to sign up for free, and the next page, provide your information, and you're going to be. You might feel a little bit like, well, I'm exposed. I have to give them my social security number. You have to identify that you are you. When they try to get you to upgrade to the paid account, just keep it free. And then when you get near the end, scroll down to protection section and look for the security freeze. Then click the manage button. Read up on what it is and how it works if you like. Click on the frozen button and to turn it on as shown here. And there's lots to offer to further protect, but it's your call because those other steps for protection, they might include insurance if you do get identity thefted. But if you're frozen all your accounts, how is that going to happen? Okay, so it's up to you whether you want to pay them or whether you just want to manage it yourself. And then finally, TransUnion. Again, you go to the TransUnion website, scroll down and look for credit freeze and unfreeze. Then click on Get Started. This is probably the most straightforward of the three. On the next screen, you click on the Add a Freeze button. And on the following screen, you create your account. That's a little backwards. You have to go to the freeze and then create your account. That's kind of how they confuse you a little bit. And when you're done, make sure you guard these account credentials very well. If you can set up multi-factor authentication, you should. And this is all subject to change because these three companies have their own websites and they may have changed since the last time I looked at them. But that's it. Once you've done this, you've got credit freezes, and that's a incredibly powerful. It's the most powerful step you can take, quite frankly, for free. But what if it happens anyways? Or what if it happened before? Well, you can report a theft, and there's lots of resources that you probably didn't know about. So you can report it to the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, and your local police department. And you want to do this as soon as you can once you find out somebody's trying to perpetrate identity theft against you. This will help you identify and find the perpetrator if we're lucky. You can also go to identitytheft.gov to create an identity theft report, and it also gives you a customized recovery plan if you're willing to answer their questions. We also definitely recommend you freeze your credit as described previously. And then when you file a police report, there's also resources that you're going to bring, like you need to have your government-issued ID, proof of address, evidence of theft. Again, at this point, you need to make sure that you prove that you're you in a way that would be very hard for someone else to. So security card, a credit history, bank statements, anything you can, federal IDs, company IDs, as much burden of proof as possible so that you can prove that it is actually you. And then contacting the financial institution. This is the hard part. This is the remediation steps. Contact any institutions, banks, insurance companies that could be impacted, such as your bank, healthcare provider, health insurance provider, and check for and dispute any unauthorized activity on your file. You can go to annualcreditreport.com, which will give you a free credit report from all three agencies. You'll also already have an account with the three agencies, which usually gives you a free credit report. And you can upload documents to the FTC via the link that we've supplied here. Ultimately, you need to secure your presence online both before and hopefully not, but after an attack. So you need to use MFA as much as possible. Anywhere possible, use it and understand how it works and try to keep learning incrementally about this stuff. Keep your passwords updated, strong, and distinct. Don't reuse them. Regularly monitor your accounts for suspicious activity. A lot of people fall down here and don't take a look at their accounts, don't look at their credit card statements. It's boring, I know, but you need to. If it's right for you, enroll in identity theft protection services that will monitor. I think Life Alert has $1 million policy if you're the victim of identity theft while you're a member. Again, for the most part, the big thing they're doing is they're freezing your credit for you. And they probably give you an app to unfreeze it very easily. I haven't bothered paying any of these people, but if it's a way to do it if you've got disposable income. And check out the ftc.gov/ID theft site. It's got a lot of great tips that'll teach you, things to do and how to stay secure. So one other area we want to talk about before we finish up is deed theft and title fraud. Now, this is something a lot of people talk about. It's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around this. It's possible. It's definitely something that could happen. This is where a criminal sells or borrows against your property. Now, we had an incident that kind of is close to this, but it's not the same. Very recently, someone tried to sell Graceland out from under Elvis Presley's family by alleging that, I think it was Priscilla Presley, they alleged that she borrowed money and never paid it back, and they were foreclosing on Graceland as part of that. And it turned out to be a complete fraud. It got caught. The judge believed the family, but sometimes the stuff, it goes way too far, and it goes to the point where things are actually sold or auctioned. It's not as common as LifeLock and other protection vendors will assert. It isn't a crime that happens all the time, but it does happen periodically, and it is something you should think about. Your title insurance is part of your protection. So if you got title insurance and you have title insurance in effect, that should help, but you want to understand what your policy does. None of us have probably looked at our title insurance since we bought our house, but it's probably a good idea to figure out where they stand. What the attacker will often start by changing your address for mail delivery. So if you suddenly stop getting mail, you need to check on that right away. Early detection is very important in these kinds of things. And if you live in some of these states listed here, but Washington, Texas, Kansas, Nebraska, Arkansas, Missouri, you see the list here. They are part of a system called propertyfraudalert.com. And that means that the states have supported that website so that you can be notified if someone changes something with the disposition of a property that you own. It's free, and I wish it was everywhere in the country, but it's only in these states. There are costly products that claim to protect and can provide peace of mind, but if you just make it part of your, quarterly or annual hygiene to just check on your properties with the title office in your local town, you're probably way ahead of everyone else.